We've had enough. For the last 20 years, we've been attacked by the political classes telling us how to farm in the countryside. We don't need townies to tell us how to farm.
My name's Eddie Sermon and I'm a farmer from Leicester and I'm a beef and arable farmer.
Colin Martin Rayner. I'm a farmer, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I've been doing it for nearly 500 years, not me personally, but the family.
My name's Douglas Turner and I farm in Surrey, Berkshire and Buckinghamshire.
Clyde Baxter, I'm a fruit farmer from Kent.
My name's Harry, we're from Kent and we are a livestock and arable farm.
Wheat, barley, oats, beans, maize and cattle and sheep. We've had enough. Talking. For the last 20 years, we've been attacked by the political classes telling us how to farm in the countryside. Our family have looked after the countryside for over 500 years. We don't need townies to tell us how to farm. We're now being paid to stop growing food and grow wildflowers. It's insanity. And we're thinking of ceasing our production after 500 years.
We're here today to show the people, especially the MPs, that we need to run the countryside the way that we know best to, because if there's no farmers, there's no food and there's no future. We need to have security for it. Unfortunately, most MPs aren't bothered. They play lip service, but they don't really care. What happens is we don't receive enough money for the food. Food is too cheap anyway, and if it wasn't for Clarkson's farm, people wouldn't really realise what we have to put up with all the time. And we get these cheap, inferior imports where the way they look after their livestock is not as good as the way we do, which is the way we're expected to look after them because of legislation. The legislators probably haven't been on a farm and don't understand.
I'm a third generation fruit farmer, and at the moment fruit production is not profitable. I've got much higher costs, I've got much higher risks, we've got climate problems that affect everybody on the planet, but they affect farmers particularly. And I'm not getting enough for the product to make it worth me continuing being a fruit farmer. So I am reducing my fruit production and I'm being encouraged by the government to turn that land into wildflowers or bird food. And I don't think that makes a lot of sense.
You spend all your time, all your days working, trying to make something of something, but then you're told how much it is worth at the end of the day. When someone said to me, can you do all the workings out to see how much it costs you? I said, you can't do that. You won't get out of bed in the morning because it's not worth it.
There's a lot of that to do with the labour as well.
No, I think a lot of it's to do with the supermarkets not paying you the correct price. A loaf of bread, let's say it's £1.20, I bet only 15p goes to the farmer, if that, which is just, it's not on in my opinion. The price of wheat at the minute is £160 a tonne or something, which is just, it's just ridiculous. It's like, I think to make it comes out at about maybe 140, so you're making 20 quid a tonne, which is just not on in my opinion.
We're mistreated really. We're not paid fair prices for production. Everything's costing us so much more than we're getting for sales. More so with the arable because it costs diesel costs, fertiliser costs, chemical costs. It's cheaper to import a bad product than it is to produce our own good product.
Would you say you're running at a loss?
Oh, 100%. I don't take a wage.
Biggest hindrance is legislation, red tape. Too many rules and regulations, whereas they don't understand what we have to do all the time. We've had people come to our farm and say, well, you need to do this and you need to do that, and you do that at that time, you do this time. And I said, you've missed something out. And then he said, with due respect, sir, I'm qualified and we've looked at all the modelling and we know exactly what you need to do. I said, can you show me where you've put the weather in there, please? Right. And he had to walk away. because you can't do things because of the weather. We finished our harvest in October last year, and it hasn't really stopped raining since then. So it makes it harder to get back on the land, but things are happening, things are coming along okay. But again, it's the legislators. They need to come out, see what it's all about, not just say, oh yes, we do this, we do that. It's okay them sitting in their offices, but they don't know what it's like there out in the farm fields.
My view is we've got this political class is out of touch with us farmers. We work very hard.
So I took a pork pie out of my fridge and showed it to my wife, and I said, you know, this is the other problem we've got. You've got a British pork pie here with a Union Jack all over it, and you turn it upside down and it's 39% British pork. Now, I think a lot of people wouldn't consider that actually a British product, but that's legal at the moment, and we don't think that's fair. And the final issue that we're concentrating on at the moment is the fact that you can bring things into the country that we can't legally produce here. Now, I think there's an argument that what comes into the country, if the government think it's safe and its welfare standards are acceptable to come in, then are we gilding the lily here? So, you know, one of those two arguments is wrong, isn't it? Either you're making farmers here go to much higher welfare standards or not be allowed to use certain plant protection products, but then you'll bring it all in from abroad, which means that it puts us as an uncompetitive advantage, you know, puts us into an uncompetitive situation.
So on your second point there, about 39% British pork, where else is the pork coming from?
Oh, well, who knows? Because it wouldn't say on the label where that rest of that pork would come from. But that's so many products are packaged as British because you can do that if you've made the product here. So as long as you've made it here, and I don't know what percentage it would have to be deemed to be British. I haven't done my homework on that.
Sounds like
but yeah, but that doesn't seem fair to us.
What did you think about? Do you remember when politicians were talking about bringing in American beef? That was like one of the big standpoints that we've heard.
Because in America, when you go to America, how much? If you look at their food, look at just a bottle of Fanta. It's full of ingredients. It's got a massive great big list, as a little one, because they can have all their weird stuff put in it and stuff. Whereas, so why do we want to bring their beef to us when it's going to be nowhere near as good as the British beef? It's not going to be natural. Everyone's all about natural at the minute. Our farm, everything that's fed to our cows is grown within 100 metres, or 100 metres of the shed. Basically, it's, you know, we're a 300-acre farm, and everything on the farm, it goes into the cows. Nothing is brought in. It's all grown, it's all fed to them, and then they go out. So, in my opinion, there's what's out of a miles, whatever it's called, air miles of food. It's what, a malt one.
And what are you going to say to MPs if you see them today up at Parliament Square?
I'm not sure we can record that really, but no. To be fair, we need to start looking at cost. There needs to be some sort of funding towards running costs to produce our own food, basically. If they can fund some of our expenses, at least then we will actually make a living, not just a complete loss.
Britain's food
We
security.
had a debate in the House of Commons last week. There was a handful of MPs in the chamber. They should hold their heads in shame. At the moment, we are stopping producing wheat, which makes bread, which everybody in this country eats. We've been paid to grow wildflowers. We need to have food produced and made in the UK. We can grow everything. Okay, we can't do bananas and grapes and avocados, but we can grow everything else. But people say, well, we can import from abroad. The same madness is happening in Europe. They're asking farmers to plant wildflowers instead of food. Okay, we could bring food in from Brazil. Do you know how they do that? Cut down the rainforest. Is that sensible? I don't think it is.
Well, they can debate it in the chamber all the time, and I think when they walk out, they forget about what they're talking about. I care about this concrete here. I don't want it to break up so that I can drive on it and walk on it. And they say that they care, but the moment they've gone out, the lip service, it's gone. Because there's a phrase that they say, how do you know when an MP's lying? Their lips move.
I don't trust any of them. Simple as that. They all tell you this, they all tell you that. You just give up on trying to listen really anymore, because it's just They'll just tell you what you want to hear.
They tried to say what we want to hear, and it very rarely followed up. Funding now towards farming has just gone out the window because of costs. Fuel costs have tripled in the last 5 years. Fertiliser costs have gone up 4 times over. It's costing us nearly 4 times to produce a product that it would have cost us 5-6 years ago. And it's the same with animals as well. Like with lamb or with beef, it costs so much to keep the animals now because of the cost of the food that's milled for the animals with protein that we have to make a lot of money of an animal to be able to make it pay for itself on the farm. So you do it to enjoy your life. You don't do it to make a living anymore.
Really, with the Conservative base normally is the older generation, because they've always voted for the Conservatives, and I'm thinking that it's going to change. I don't think Labour are going to do a good job. I don't think Conservative are going to do a good job, but it's either or, it would seem, and neither of them are going to work. And unless they get their act together and work with us instead of against us, we won't have the food security we need.
Yeah, I don't know who I'd vote for. I don't think I'll bother voting, because what's the point? Whatever they do, they'll tell you this, and it won't actually make any difference to us.
You're the voting base, though.
Well, that's what they say, but yeah, what's the point if it's just lies all the time? I mean, how many politicians have they had in now since there was a last vote or whatever it was? Three leaders, isn't it?
We are on our third.
That's it, third, yeah. And there's no talk of him getting kicked out, so there'll be a fourth. Yeah, come on, it's just stupid, isn't it?
So there's been a real emphasis, and there's nothing wrong with that, but there's been a real emphasis on the environment, and actually we as farmers as a whole think that there's too much emphasis on that and not enough on food security. So you can spend a lot of time putting the environment right here, but if you then take your environmental problems and take them to another part of the world where perhaps they've got more issues than growing food here with less air miles or sea miles or whatever, that seems a bit of a nonsense. So we think that food security should be higher up the agenda, and there should be a balance between the environmental package and the food package.
Net zero, I call it nut zero actually, because it's a non-existent thing that they've fabricated, they've created, that we don't need, and is never going to happen. If you're in a room, you can control everything within that room. When we're outside, you can't control it. You can't have net zero. And correct me if I'm wrong, because as they think I'm a thick farmer, doesn't CO2 and carbon help things grow?
Where we're standing now was once a field. Heathrow was once a field. But we, the farmers, are blamed for the environment. So let me have a little competition. I will stay in my garage all night for 2 cows. Let's put a politician in a garage with his diesel car burning all night, and we discuss who's killing the environment in the morning.
I've been to events where they've asked me to speak, and I've asked people what they need, what they want. Oh, they want a new car, they want a new phone, they want a holiday or something. I said, you don't need any of that. I said, you may want it, but what you need is food. And you need to be able to make sure that we grow enough food in our own country. Because if we don't, if other countries have a bad harvest, or they put the price up, we can't afford to eat.
Are we looking at the decimation of British farming?
Yes. And I had my college reunion, and the last time I went on strike was in 1979, was at Shuttleworth College of Agriculture. We had our college reunion the other day. Most of the farmers like me are 66 years old. We're throwing in the towel. Let's just take the government money. It won't be our problem if people starve. Maybe be our problem might be public disorder.